for coming to the event. Our event is in 2 weeks in Corpus Christi, Texas. Come check it out. We're excited to have you if you're coming. If you can't make it, let's go. We're happy to see you there. But we'll jump right back into the business. But I want to start off today. We're going to cover different deal sizes and different deal structures. So I don't have anything scripted or anything. I'm kind of get a free flow, but I kind of want to talk about different size lots and their values and maybe where you're at in your business and maybe where you want to be in your business. I think it's a little cool topic we can talk about today. Anthony's unavailable today, but we do have Michael Flores and Mr. Alan Quintero. So we're gonna talk some stuff. If you guys have any questions, put in the chat. But I'll start off with small lots. People are still joining the room. They're welcome. All right, so I want to start off with small lots. So I started on small lots. It's something to look down on. You can do a lot of volume doing small lots, usually an acre or less. What comes to mind is Florida. You hear about people moving Florida lots all over the place. If you're looking to do deals per month, Florida's a place to go. The thing is you have to, the limitations is you're going to have to find a price arbitrage. There is no other way to make money doing small lots unless you have a price arbitrage. Terms don't help you. Seller financing ain't going to help you very much. You're going to have to find a good price, and that's it. That's pretty much it. So small lots, you're kind of limited on what you can and can't do on your exit and acquisition, but there's plenty of them, and you can do a lot of deals, a lot of small deals over and over again, and it's very repeatable business if you're looking for consistency. Now, let's jump a little bit up bigger to 1 to 5 acre lots. 1 to 5 acre lots they're usually at a great price point. The 1 acre lots and less, they're usually going to be pretty cheap. You can find stuff for $5,000 to $100,000 depending on where you're at. But once you go to 1 to 5 acres, you can really level up and go after a little bit more price properties. There's a price point that varies across different markets too as well, that you're going to hit that maybe variance point. So biggest reasons why I don't like doing houses, and if you come from that space, it's very limited on what you can make. It's very hard to squeeze $20,000 or more consistently out of houses because there's just not margins for it, depending on your market. And it's very hard to squeeze that. But when we start getting bigger and medium-sized land deals, it's very easy to do that. The smaller lots, you can probably get $10,000 to $20,000 fees or profits on those. Pretty. $20,000 is going to be probably your peak of the market, but you're usually going to be around $10,000 or less. But it's repeatable. Now, when you get a little bit bigger, 1 to 5 acres, and this might be 1 to 5 acres in Houston might be $500,000. So it's going to vary on price point too. So 1 to 5 acres, you have a little bit. Let's say 1 to 10 acres, you have a little bit more flexibility to make more profit, but especially in Texas, it's harder to subdivide that down into smaller lots. But there's plenty of opportunity there. So we've gotten a 10-acre lot, we cut that into 11 lots. We've gotten a 5.5 acre lot, we've cut that into 11 lots. You can do, I think Mike, is he still here? Mike Flores?
Yeah.
How big is Aransas River? That's like 5 acres.
Oh, you mean Aransas Pass?
Aransas Pass, yeah, that one.
Yeah, 4.5 acres. We split it into 4 lots.
4.5 acres splitting into 4 lots. So this is where I think you're going to hit a sweet spot of the 1 to 10 acres. I think there's a sweet spot there if you can create inventory. Now, creating inventory at that level, it takes a little bit longer depending on the county, but there's plenty of money there, and no one's even looking at it. So if you have the time to wait, and if you ask for long due diligence process, you can get those deals pretty easily and readily available. You can find a good 10-acre lot with off frontage. You can find a good 4-acre lot with off frontage, 5-acre lot with off frontage, and you can cut those up into parcels and make a lot of money. Numbers wise, we bought 10 acres for $225. We may turn that into 11 lots. I think we're selling for $60,000 a lot. One of those a year will make you a lot of money. The other one, we bought the 5.5 acres for $225, and I think we're looking to sell each lot for $90. I think we're building on them, but I think they'd go for like $80,000 or so if we sold them as lots alone. But they're really good numbers. And then what's the other one? Aransas River. I can't remember what we got it for. I don't even know what we're selling it for. Maybe Mike can jump in.
We got it for 2 million, and probably end up selling it probably like 3.6 ish, somewhere around
that
there.
One. Aransas Pass, not the Aransas.
Oh, when you say Aransas Ranch, okay, yeah.
So Aransas Pass, we bought it for. Give me a second here. 150, I believe. Oh gosh, I don't remember now. And we're selling the lots for 100 each.
100 each.
100 each, as is.
As is. So 150 grand. Just on doing a 4-acre subdivide. Great numbers. And you asked, are you touching anything in flood zones? Yes, we will touch stuff in flood zones. And this is where I'm glad you mentioned this. Flood zones are going to matter a lot more on your infill lots. Your smaller lots are going to matter a lot more. We had a deal we were looking at. It was like 25 acres or something like that. And there was literally 5 acres inside the flood zone. Well, the idea we had is we're going to cut it to 10 acres or more. We can cut that into 2 12-acre lots. And now we have 2 12-acre lots with 10 acres of flood zone each, and they each have 2.5 of usable lots, usable unflood zone, which is still good. That's still a great subdivide. So you have to measure where the flood zone is and where it isn't. Type on whenever you're doing smaller lots. They're going to affect your price point and exit a lot more. Just to answer that question. So there's money in flood zones and trash. Me and Anthony did a video last week that we're talking about. There's money in trash properties. A lot of the land we buy, they're just trashed. There's debris in them. People start dumping on them. My first deal, trashed. So you can find really great opportunities in trash and flood zone properties. So don't sleep on those. That's where you're going to get paid. Now, 10 acres or more, I think there's a little buffer like 10 to 20 acres, but 20 acres to 50 acres is where I love that game. 20 acres to 100 acres is a fun game to play in. Now the price points are going to vary across the board depending on where you're getting deals. But we have a 29-acre deal in Mahia for $285. We're cutting up into 3 lots. No, it's 36 acres. My bad, 36 acres. So it's 312s. 312s, $285 purchase. We're selling it for, I think, $180 each. And somebody on the sales team might have a buyer for 2 lots. So sell 2 lots for $400. We haven't even closed on it. All we did was we earnest money in it on surveys. And we're already up $100,000 with a lot. It's crazy. So there's money in like that 20 acres plus. I love 20 acres plus. This is where, Alan, you want to talk about this for a little bit? Because we talked about this on July 4th. Alan was doing like not necessarily size lots, but it was more price point. And you can kind of go after different size stuff. But I think Alan was doing like 50,000 or less properties, and then he jumped up to 250 or less.
Yep. So when I started, I mean, we were doing more like circle prospecting, right? So we would find neighborhoods that had a lot of land activity, and then we would just create a bunch of inventory there. We were buying for maybe $7,000, and the property was worth maybe $25,000, $30,000. So still pretty decent margins, better than it was for like wholesaling houses at the time. And then, that whole year just focusing, doing that model, we probably did about 70 deals, but it took a lot of work to get there, right? Like, you can imagine how many, all the stuff that we did, you guys could do on one deal with the big tracts, right? So we started to then focus on properties. After we did a handful of those, we started to like notice, okay, well, our biggest spreads, our best deals are coming from, buy for 70, sell for 150, buy for 90, sell for 160. So properties that, in that 100 to 200 range. So we just started to go after properties valued at 250 or less. The one thing that we needed to do was lock up properties for longer amounts of time. And then we didn't really sell to builders. We were selling to end users. So, yeah. So doing that, I mean, we definitely increased our margins. We started to see more $50,000 deals, $100,000 deals, $90,000 and stuff like that, just by doing that small tweak.
No, that's great. It's really, really great. I'm glad you mentioned that. You mentioned something that I didn't mention, but the smaller deals, there's a whole strategy targeting builders. As you go up in sizing, we're selling to retail and buyers on all our stuff. There's buyers ready to do it, and you can finance them. Usually the builders are going to want to pay cash, and you have to buy cash as far as your negotiations with sellers. With the bigger the transaction, you can ask for 90 days. You can ask for 120 days. You can ask for 6 months, and people are going to give it to you when you start asking, when you go after bigger properties. So you have a lot more flexibility on your time frames, and you get more flexibility on your price points, and you get more flexibility on your terms. The doors start opening up for you when you start messing with 20 acres and up. It's my opinion. I'm completely biased just from my experience. So there's a threshold where the bigger price point and bigger acreage you get to, the less people are playing at that level. Your competition thins out significantly. There's not very many people playing at like that 400, like 350,000 and up price point. There's not a lot of people. I mean, there's not a lot of people even at 100,000 and up that play at that level. One of the big things that we try and do is we're trying to exit all of our lots under like 350 grand. We try not to create inventory under that price point because it gets unaffordable to the end user. So that's kind of like our little barrier of thumb. But it gets even sweeter when you get to bigger stuff. The bigger stuff is crazy. So bigger stuff, there's like a $500,000 price point, and that can vary in acreage. $500,000 price point, we're getting like 6 months of closing, extensions, option money. Like you get to ask for a lot of different type of stuff, and you have a lot more opportunity to sell inventory under that property. So the reason why we're going further faster than a lot of people in our niche, I talked to Alan about this last week, is there's people I talked to Alan yesterday about this. There's people that they buy cash, sell cash. And it works well, but when you have the ability to get some type of due diligence, long escrow period, or seller financing for 12 months or 24 months or plus, you get to maximize your ROI significantly. Crazy to the point where we're doing a lot of deals now where all we have out is earnest money surveys and some marketing dollars, and we're paying off the property, which is crazy ROI. We're $50,000 or less, and we're making multiple six figures. So now we're talking about hundreds of percent ROI without even bringing cash to the table. And all we're doing is bringing sales. So you get a lot of leverage with bigger properties, and you can ask for longer due diligence periods. Let's talk about this. Ryan, you want to talk about Aransas River? This is a bigger property. He kind of spilled the beans literally, but now we're here at this point. Go ahead, Ryan.
Yeah, so Aransas River was a deal that was brought through a friend of mine. It's 200 acres. They wanted 2.2. Long story short, we'll end up after the price adjustment purchasing at about 1.8. And on all of these properties that I work, we always try to get seller finance terms. So basically 6-month close with a 6-month option. Actually, our option is 10 days longer than our close date. So, we're supposed to close on September 2nd and our option ends September 12th. And then they wanted $1 million up front, and then the rest would be, 800,000 over the next course of 3 years at interest only payments. So we'll acquire around 1.8 after the price adjustment. And right now with where we're selling price per acre, we should be around 3. So after the sales team, everything's paid, we're probably looking at about $1 million or so in spread. Yeah.
Great numbers. So bigger opportunities. You can ask for 3 to 5 year seller financing. You can still ask for, people ask, I want 50% down. Well, if you give me 6 months to give you 50%, it's a different conversation. If you want it in 90 days or less, I don't know, I can't do it. So the biggest thing is asking for extended escrows at bigger price points. This is the biggest thing. The bigger the price point, the longer escrow period, and the more opportunity you get to move the inventory. Yes, we can raise $1 million, but if I don't need to, that's even better. Go ahead, Alan.
Yeah, one thing I want to mention, like in my price point, it's a little bit more difficult to talk somebody into seller financing it to us because, just a lot of these people are hoping to get that lump sum of cash. A lot of these people probably won't have that lump sum of cash, right? So the price point you guys are playing in, sometimes they are, right? But you guys are creating more seller finance opportunities than I see happen in my space or my range.
And you hit it on the head, is that the lower price point, they want it all in cash, and that's non-negotiable. It's non-negotiable. But if you're doing $1 million property and you give them 250 grand, they're like, yeah, 250 grand is perfect. That's where you're right at that sweet spot. And for us, it's 25% down, and it might be 2-lot sales that bring that. So it's a different dynamic that you get more flexibility the bigger the property, and it's such a great, and like nobody taught us this. We kind of found out by doing it after a long time, but y'all hearing it today. Like you get to do different levels based on whatever your comfortability is currently, So it's a really cool kind of position to be in based off of your risk tolerance and your experience of where you want to be. One thing Ryan said, I'll go back to Ryan, is every property we're getting over 7 figures, we're negotiating some type of seller financing every single time. And we can get it because a lot of times at that price point, they don't want to receive it all in cash. They just want somebody to move the property. Remember, the bigger the land deal, the less liquid it is. The bigger the land deal, the less liquid it is. It gets a lot harder to move 100 acres at $1 million than it is to move 30 acres at 250. It's a lot harder. It's a lot harder to move that bigger stuff. So they want some activity and movement, and that's why they're willing to seller finance and tax advantages and a down payment of 250 grand ish, where that's all the money they need for the next few years. So they're okay with it. The payments are fine, and you get a lot of negotiation power. So it's a really cool like buffer zone. The bigger the lots, you get free housing. Usually there's a threshold. I don't know exactly where it is, but it's different per market. If you buy 50 acres of the house, they're selling it usually as land only. Whereas if you buy 20 acres with a house, they're like, oh, I want 500 grand for my house and 200 grand, 300 grand for my 20 acres. So now it's 800 grand. And they're like, what? That's crazy. But if you go after 75 acres with the house, like, oh, it's just 75 acres and there's a house. They can't get one or the other. And I think the varying price point, I think that variance is, especially if you're targeting stuff in the MLS, do a search for 50 to 100 acres with housing and see what comes up. There's probably some opportunities there. Because if they're selling it as a house, they might not find land buyers. And if they're selling it as land, they might not find a house buyer. So they have to do one or the other. So you can find some arbitrage there just by targeting stuff that is mispriced based off of what comes with it. And sometimes you'll find, especially with big land with houses, usually they'll cut off that house separately. So if you can buy it together and sell it separately, there's your arbitrage of selling the house and getting some type of down payment or some funds for purchasing. So it's a unique opportunities. Now we've gotten 7-figure deals with seller financing. I don't think we've done one yet that we didn't get seller financing. I'm trying to think of an instance currently. I think every deal over 7 figures we got in seller financing. So the biggest thing I want to make a point of this is that if you're a wholesaler trying to sell these or acquire these and sell them, get seller financing. Ask for seller financing. It's pretty much a non-negotiable. Either you get seller financing or you get an extended escrow period. They're both equally important. If you get both, it's good. If you get one or the other, it's okay. But you're going to need one or the other to do a deal, especially with little capital out of your pocket. And this is the deals we like doing. We like amplification of our ROI. And that's all we're looking for, amplification of our ROI. We're going to do a lot of business this year just because of these strategies and techniques to do these deals. We're going to do a lot of business this year just off of those two things. Any questions?
A lot of these people that have, very expensive properties are probably not so much in a rush for the money.
I want to get some water.
I do that.
Hit me, Ruben.
So when you're structuring that offer, like how do you convince someone to give you 6 months to close or like receive some sort of money? And then like what happens, I guess, in that period? Is that when like you start kind of advertising it or like the subdivision contracts start happening in that period, or how does that process kind of work?
Absolutely. As soon as we contract, we are selling it immediately. One thing we do with our acquisitions contracts that we send out is they all have an Exhibit A that asks for marketable title. Now, what's marketable title? Marketable title is we don't hide anything from our sellers and agents we work with. So most of the time we tell them, hey, our expertise is subdivision. You have 100 acres. We want to cut this into 10-acre lots, and we'll pay you your price point. We just need 6 months with an optional extension, or we have 3 months with an option to extend. One thing, we're getting really creative with our offers on the front end to get those terms. So we have a deal right now. It's like a 90-day close. A lot of these times, you get to extend for title issues, title problems, survey problems. We had a deal we just signed for today that we were supposed to close May 26th. Now, what happened? A lot of it was survey issues. Survey in Texas, in order to do a survey, you have to have a title commitment. The wholesaler the title company they chose did not pull the title commitment. So we called in as the assignment, like, hey, you have the title commitment so we can start a survey. And like, oh, we haven't started it yet. And they had the contract for like 45 days. So we're like, okay, we're immediately pulling that deal from you and send it to our other title company because we need to get a title commitment that we can start in the survey. So that immediately put us behind on the initial surveys. It was like an 80-acre tract, and she wanted to keep 20 acres. So we had to do a title commitment, survey of the 80 acres, then figure out what she wanted, then get a new title commitment from the cutoff, and then we had to do new surveys for each of the subdivide lots. So that took like 60 days, and so we're closing today. But it was just one of those things that surveys just muddied the deal a little bit longer since we don't have the title commitment, and we have to wait for that stuff. And usually surveys can be anywhere from 2 to 6 weeks out on average. So if you want to stall, don't order the survey right away. Or you can have your surveyor play the game and stall at the title company. So you can use these tips and tricks to kind of play the game if you need to, without getting an extension. But you get an extension. Oh, we need the surveys. So it's a game you play. Go ahead, Angie.
So I was talking to somebody last week, and they said, hey, we couldn't get seller financing on this deal. So, and we didn't want to bring any money to the table. It was a lot of money. We were still going to divide it. So they were saying what they did was, rather than getting, releases, because they didn't really, they didn't buy it. And they were selling off, say, 10 parcels. They just told the person, this is what we're doing. And so what we're going to do is we're going to incrementally, after the subdivision, we're going to buy one parcel, then we're going to buy the second one, then we're going to buy the third one. So they just wholly did an end around on the partial releases and just said, we're subdividing this and we're going to buy them incrementally as we find our end buyers. So I hadn't necessarily heard of anybody doing that approach. Obviously, when you get a seller finance situation, you don't necessarily need to do that. But I thought that was an interesting approach. I haven't tried it yet.
So us poor people have to be creative on how we structure and how we restructure and save deals. So you get really good at finagling stuff. And it's a skill you learn through experience. And that experience sometimes blows up in your face, and that experience sometimes pays off. So it's a game you play, but we've had deals blow up in our face for that. And one of the easiest way around that is this disclosing. If you disclose from the beginning, you're going to get a lot less hang up and get hung up on a lot of different things. And that's one thing we learned, because we used to play the game, but now we play it better because we got experience. So we just disclose what we're doing and how we're doing it. And usually, most of the time, 9 times out of 10, they don't care. We even got a deal right now working that it's probably 500 acres, 2 parcels, and a student brought it. I don't know if he's here today. We should be getting the contract hopefully this week. It's all frontage, but the problem is the ugly side is really deep, which means you're going to get really pencil line subdivides or bigger lots, which is bigger price points, which is what we don't want. But we're like, the bottom part's perfect. And like, can we buy the bottom part for the same price per acre? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, okay. So we're buying, usually when you buy a big chunk like that is a cheaper price per acre. So we literally chose the best part of the lot at the same price per acre of the whole project. And we're getting we're cutting it. It's 160 acres. We're cutting into 16 10-acre lots, and it's all frontage with driveway spacing, all that jazz. I'll show it once we get the contract, but it's such a textbook deal that we got that we kind of just like, I just want that part, and they gave it to us the same price, and we got 6 months to close.
So it reminds me, speaking of, crappy parcels within large acreage, I had a realtor, the property, it wasn't listed, but he wanted to get his realtor friend on the phone with me. And he goes, hey, how do we know that you're not going to, even if we sell our finance, you're not going to sell off the good parcels first and then you die or something, you get hit by a car. And then we've got these crappy, the crappier parcels left. So do you hear that very often? I typically don't, but.
We hear objections with that. And we actually dealt with it earlier this year. So what we did is we actually sold the rear first.
Did you write that in the contract that you would do that? I'm going to sell this parcel first if they bring it up.
That was a concern. So this is one of the things I want to do too. This is one of the things where like everything's a negotiation. So that was one of their concerns. Is like, hey, if you leave us with the bad part, understandable. Let me sell the back first. It's a little more challenging, but if I can still do the deal, it's going to work out. So that's one thing we did. That's something we did on a recent one. Is we sold the back first. 6 months to close. What does that include as far as due diligence upon closing time? We usually ask for 6 months for surveys, water studies. We kind of throw all that jazz at them, and then tell them we're gonna find some end buyers to buy some of the subdivide. Whatever we can't sell in that time frame, we're gonna bring it to close, and that's kind of how we frame it. Is you have 100 acres. I have 6 months due diligence time. If I can sell 20 acres, I'm only buying 40 for the remainder or whatever that is. And you kind of piece it together. So like I have the capability of buying it all, but I would like to get a better ROI by bringing some buyers to the table to buy.
So what about like, as far as like, are you doing like 45 days of due diligence and then the rest on time to close? Or are you doing like half and half?
We play the game, man. Some of it is an option period. Some is due diligence. Some is an option to extend. It really depends on what they fight us on. So we always ask for the moon and then work backwards. So they're like, we'll ask for like 90-day option period for 500 for $1,000. And then we'll ask for 10K, 20K hard EMD after the option period. And then we'll do a 90-day extension for 50 grand or 10 grand or 5 grand, whatever that number is. We just play the game on your contract, and you kind of work it for whatever timeline you need. For example, I don't know if he's here, but somebody brought us a deal we're JVing on. Somebody brought us 1,000 acres in Colorado that we're JVing on with a student in the group. He's not here today, but he has 90 days. 60 days is the option period. So what we're going to do is we're going to push it to the sales team, sell as much as we can, and then ask for an extension for 50 to 100 grand, whatever that is. So you can play the game however you see fit. But if we bring one buyer to the table, hey, I'm bringing 100 grand down, but you need to release these acres. So you can play the game however you want, and everybody's going to play differently. One thing we like, this is a great one, is we'll do different offers, and it's all wonky. We'll ask for like 90 days option fee for 5 grand with 20K hard for 30 days with a 90-day extension option for 20 grand. And you kind of piece it and muddy it together however you see fit. We always make it cheap up front. Like the deal we're contracting is 50 grand hard. It's like an 880 purchase price, and they wanted $100,000 EMD. And we're like, we'll do 50. But the 50 is we'll do 10K after 7 days and 40K after 21 days. So you kind of mix and match all your EMD, your option fee, option to extend. You kind of mix and match all those terms with different amounts or whatever you can negotiate to kind of get your timeline. And it's all negotiation. This is you put on your negotiation hat and you go to work. Go ahead, Harkert.
Yeah, I had I saw this question in the Facebook group, but I couldn't find it again for me to be able to comment. But it was about seller financing and wholesale and seller financing deals. And that's still like something that really confuses me. For an example, I have like a fixer-upper deal. It's just a house in Waco.
Sure.
I think the terms make sense. So purchase price is $80K, but they will do seller financing with $16K down, so 20%. But they want 12% interest with a 5-year balloon. And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, okay, well, I can flip the wholesale at like 56. You know what I mean? Outright cash, make 40, but then I'm stuck on payments for 5 years with the balloon. And then it's like, I did the math on that. It's like more than 40K. So I'm like, how does the math up? Do I add like interest on my offer, or it's just been a brain fog for me? And I've been trying to figure it out, and I'm like, I just don't see it.
I have a good answer for you, and this is for everybody here. Some good stuff. So this is off the tweet. So it's all in your negotiations. We talk about creative finance a lot. I saw this tweet yesterday, but this is really good. All right, so price versus terms. You have a single family home will rent for $1,250. Your operating expense are $500 a month. Expected NOI is $750, right? Well, they're asking $125,000 for it. Well, you can offer $110 with $10,000 cash, and then you have three different offers, so it gets better as it goes. But offer one is $110 with $10,000 cash, 7.5 interest. You cash flow $50 a month. You don't really want to do that. So the whole point of this is you want to offer more. So they're asking $125. You offer $130 or $120. $120 with $10,000 down. You get 6% interest rate, $90 in. So the more interest they want, you lower the price point. The more, if you can get a higher price point and less interest, you actually cash flow more. So number 3 is offer $130,000 with $10,000 down, $120 at 4.5% for 30 years. You cash flow $140. The big thing is on the bottom is what are you really offering? Who cares what the total purchase price is if you can cover the debt? And that's the big thing, covering the debt. So $10,000, what you're really offering is $10,000 cash and a promise of 360 payments of $699. When you lower the interest rate, you actually lower your payment as well. So on the last one, he offered $5,000 over. His payment almost dropped $90 a month, so he's cash flowing more. So you can create a win-win scenario by offering more money. And this is one of my levers that I love doing is I'll pull that lever all day long. I will offer you more money if you give me 0% interest financing or a low interest rate. I will pull that lever every time because you can create a better opportunity for yourself over time if you're in the deal for the long haul, especially with a 5-year AM or longer. So I'll pull on that price point all the time and just raise the price. So it's one of those things where you gotta do your numbers and your math on your offers to make sure they make sense, depending on your exit strategy. No matter what asset class you're doing, houses, land, doesn't matter. You can create a win-win scenario without having to pay cash, which is the big thing.
I had a question.
Yep.
So on the back end, when you sell the lots off, I think you guys mentioned before that the seller usually gets paid first.
Yep.
Is that always the case? Like, so the seller gets paid in full before we pocket anything?
It depends what you can negotiate. So let's say you have let's have a hypothetical situation. You have 100 acres for $1 million. It's $10,000 an acre. My exit on that would want to be $20,000 an acre. So I'm going to create 10 lots for $200,000, and let's say I have a cash buyer come in with $200,000 down. Hypothetically, I can go to the seller. I can play this one of two ways. Mr. Seller, we have a 6-month due diligence period. It's month number 3. If I gave you $200,000, would you release 20 acres? Because if you think about it, 100 acres, 10,000 an acre. If I'm putting $200,000 down, I should get 20 acres, right? Yeah. Or you can play the other way. Hey, Mr. Seller, if I give you $100,000, will you release 10 acres? They're both not wrong. They're both right. So it depends what you do. Me personally, I'd rather pay the seller off first because then they're out of the picture. They're out of the transaction. I don't have to worry about them. If it's a cash transaction, they're out. They're gone. I'm in the money. I don't need the money today. I'd rather do the deal and I'm in the green and I don't have to worry about anybody suing me. That's my biggest thing. But hypothetically, if you have a buyer for 200 and you go to the seller and like, hey, if I give you 100 grand for these 10 acres and you release it, and he or she says yes, boom, you double close it. Hey, I want these 10 acres for X. You give them 100 grand, you pocket 100 grand. Boom, 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 boom. 100% possible. Everything's negotiable. Everything's a negotiation.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Pretty much, it's negotiable.
Sometimes some sellers will be like, you're parceling it off. Any money received, can you pay me first? Sometimes they'll voice that concern. If they don't voice that concern, don't bring it up. Just move forward. But sometimes they'll voice concern, and so we hear that sometimes. Well, if I'm releasing this, I want to get paid all the money. All right, that's fine. I usually work my deals like that anyway. Boom, you get 20 acres free and clear for 200. Boom, you get all the money. But now you own 10 acres free and clear for the next deal. So you can play the game however you want. Everything's negotiable, and it's what the bigger the property, the more negotiation space you have, whether it's price, terms, or seller financing. So that's the sweet spot I like, and you can kind of create whatever you want, and no one can stop you. Good question. We've got another one. And the biggest thing too is like I will take any seller financing, whether it's 10%, 20%, 50%, 90%, 80%. I will take any type of seller financing to do the deal. Martinez River is 50% down. Poteet we bought was 25% down. What's another one we got? We got a deal in San Antonio. I want to say it's like 30% down. We got a deal in, what's another seller financing deal we got? Freer. Freer is, we bought for $495 or something like that, 168, or it's like 180 acres for $495. We got that deal for $40K down with 160,000 due in 3 months. So you can create a lot of cool stuff just by negotiating, and you can get into a lot of deals just by negotiating. So it's endless opportunities if you negotiate. And the longer the deal sits, the more negotiable they are. We have a deal we did about a year ago, and they wanted cash. We tried to do it, it blew up in our face. Student potentially has it, seller finance for 5 years. Time will beat up these sellers where they're open to anything just to get the deal moved. That's the biggest thing. Follow up was key. So like Ruben, I don't know if Ruben's still here. Ruben Torres, follow up with your Italy seller. They're probably negotiable now. I remember we looked at that deal probably 8 months ago, maybe a year ago. So the deals open up the longer they're still pending.
Yep, I'm on it.
Yeah, and it's probably still available. So you got to follow up with your leads. Keep it going, and they'll come back.
That one specifically is most definitely still available. It's just the realtor we're fighting on that one, but he'll come around.
He'll come around. That's how it works. He'll come around. Time will beat him up. They have a liquid asset, a very illiquid asset, especially the bigger it is. So it ain't going anywhere anytime soon. It has to be parceled off and sold into smaller bits. That's the only way to move this stuff. And we know that, but they don't know that. So you got to come around, you disclose, cover your ass when you're on your contract due diligence, and then you negotiate with your negotiating hat on, and you can create endless opportunities over and over. Who's got another question? So me and Anthony, we're trying to get into bigger transactions. Not that we're scared of them. We've kind of developed our tolerance, I would say, our tolerance to do these bigger transactions where we're not scared of them anymore. And a lot of it is we've gotten a lot bigger money capital partners behind us that we know we can follow through. So we're looking at bigger transactions now that we can still get because they're even more liquid. We're negotiating a $10 million land deal that we're still negotiating, but it might take months of negotiation, but we're still working it out. they wanted 20% down. So like, you want 20% down, which is $2 million. We need 12 months to come up with that. And we're just going to pay them off their own property. Same strategy, just longer extended timelines to cover their down payment. So it's endless possibilities on the front end. You should have to negotiate it. Would you buy 20-acre tracts at market rate if the seller's open to financing? 100%. 100%. I would, if I can get a seller finance deal at a current ARV with a little down payment, I will take that all day long. Hell, I'll even overpay, because then I can wrap it. You can get a financing arbitrage just by getting, 210s. Let's say hypothetically you're getting 20 acres for 200 grand. You're getting it for 10,000 an acre, right? Easy math. And say it's only worth 200 grand, but you can sell it for 200 grand. If I can get 0% interest with 10% down or less, I will do that deal, because I can wrap it for 10% down, cover my down payment, and then I have a interest rate arbitrage. So let me do the math here so we can figure out what we're talking about. I'll probably do that for 240 months. 0% interest is $750 a month. If I do 12% interest, it's $1981. That's $1,200 a month cash flow on a deal with no equity. Then it comes down to that graphic I showed earlier. If I can, I'm making a promise. It's $20,000 down cash and a promise of 240 months of $600. And then I'm going to create another promise with another buyer with $20,000 down and $1,900 a month, and we're in the money. And if one note defaults, I still have $300 a month cash flow, and I get to restructure the other note. There's money in arbitrage of the debt if you can get it, and that's why I really don't care what the price point is, as long as I can get good debt or good terms. Good terms is the variable of that. If I can get good terms, I'm okay with it. And all I do is ask for extended escrow, 90 days, 120 days, find two buyers, cover down payment, double close, and wrap it. Easy money. So there's plenty of as long as there's some type of arbitrage, you can create a win with little to no capital. Any other questions? The event is next 2 Saturdays from, it's last Saturday of the month. I know we have some people come into the event. We're excited to have them. Hope you all show up. I know we'll keep doing the event every year. It's an opportunity to get our team together. So we have a lot of people virtually. We have a new guy from Belgium who brought in a buyer, hopefully for 2 of our lots. So hopefully he'll come to the next event. I don't think he'll come to this one, but we have a lot of people working virtually. So the event is an opportunity for us to meet, shake hands with you, have dinner with you, lunch with you, break bread, have a conversation, do some content, have some fun. But if you guys can make it, we'll love to have you. Corpus Christi at the end of the month. Alan speaking. Chris Rude just confirmed. We got Ty, which is Flipman, and Rooster's coming again. And me and Anthony are speaking, of course. But this is our 4th event.
Did you say Ty is coming, Flipman?
Yes, Flipman is coming.
No Ty. Okay.
Flipman is coming. The one and only Flipman. I'm excited. I'm excited to meet him. Henry Washington's coming. We got a lot of good people. We have a lot of fun. That's the biggest thing. We have a lot of fun. So if you don't make it this year, we'll do it next year somewhere, and run the play again. No matter who shows up. But we have fun doing it. We'd love to have you and meet you, shake your hand, take a picture with you. And if you can make it, let us know. For everybody here, if you have any questions, hit us up in the group. If you have any deals, hit us up. We are always moving, finding opportunities anywhere and everywhere. We're opening up into new markets, as you can see. We have a deal in Florida. We haven't done a deal in over a year in Florida. We have a deal in Florida right now and possibly a deal in Colorado. Never done a deal in Colorado. We just expanding. So I'm excited to see Go ahead, Marv.
I got an RV park for you in Florida. It's doing, he says it's doing $10K a month, but he doesn't have financials.
Okay. Send it. We'll negotiate it. We have an RV park deal right now. We're getting to the point where we're doing anything and everything that makes money. I don't really care. But I'm always a land guy first. So we'll look at anything and everything you got. As long as there's money to be made, we are on it. We're doing some big numbers this year, so it's only going to get bigger and better, and we're excited to see what the future holds. Everybody here, have a good week. We'll see you soon.
I got a question, Daniel. But let's say, because I have a different deal in Colorado. I've been speaking with the seller for a while. He eventually listed it. It was like, I think like 79 acres. But the thing is, as you know, to understand the subdivide process, I don't know how long it takes, but even when I looked at comps, like let's say 5 acres, we're going for about 200,000. He was asking for about 1.2 for 79 acres. And I know he was open to like seller finance when I offered maybe about like 200,000 down. And then, like I said, maybe carry for, I don't know, 5 years or longer or something. But we'll see.
The bigger anything over $1 million, we want some type of seller financing or long escrow period. Bottom line, I know Colorado, we're learning, has a 35-acre subdivide rule. So you cut that into 2 lots without getting county approval. But at that price point, he probably wants entitlement. So if he's going to wait 24 months, 12 months, probably money there, and he's going to have to wait for it.
Sounds good.
It's the bottom line. So if they want a high price point, they're gonna have to wait for it.
Exactly. Yep.
And I want seller financing.
Yeah. Push pull, like you said.
That's it.
Perfect.
We'll see you next week. If you have any questions, let us know. We're here for you guys. Have a good week.
Thank you. Too.
Bye.
Bye.